Hello ladies and gentlemen. Today I would like to read you a very inspirational art manifesto by the incomparable Claes Oldenburg. I am for an art that is political, erotical, mystical, that does something other than sit on its arse in a museum. I am for an art that grows up not knowing its art at all, an art given the chance of having a starting point of zero. I am for an art that embroils itself with the everyday crap and still comes out on top. I am for an art that imitates the human, that is cosmic, if necessary, or violent, or whatever is necessary. I am for all art that takes its form from the lines of life itself, that twists and extends and accumulates and spits and drips and is heavy and coarse and blunt and sweet and stupid as life itself. I am for an artist who vanishes, turning up in a white cap, painting signs or hallways. I am for an art that comes out of a chimney like black hair and scatters in the sky. I am for art that spills out of an old man's purse when he's bounced off a passing fender. I am for the art out of a doggy's mouth, falling 5 stories from the roof. I am for the art that a kid licks after peeling away the wrapper. I am for an art that joggles like everyone's knees when the bus traverses an excavation. I am for art that is smoked like a cigarette, smells like a pair of shoes. I am for art that flaps like a flag or helps blow noses like a handkerchief. I am for art that is put on and taken off like pants, which develops holes like socks, which is eaten like a piece of pie or abandoned with great contempt like a piece of shit. I am for art covered with bandages. I am for art that limps and rolls and runs and jumps. I am for art that comes in a can or washes up on the shore. I am for art that coils and grunts like a wrestler. I am for art that sheds hair. I am for art you can sit on. I am for art you can pick your nose with or stub your toes on. I am for art from a pocket, from deep channels of the ear, from the edge of a knife, from the corners of the mouth, stuck in the eye or worn on the wrist. I am for art under the skirts and the art of pinching cockroaches. I am for the art of conversation between the sidewalk and a blind man's metal stick. I am for the art that grows in a pot, that comes down out of the skies at night like lightning, that hides in the clouds and growls. I am for art that is flipped on and off with a switch. I am for art that unfolds like a map, that you can squeeze like your sweetie's arm or kiss like a pet dog, which expands and squeaks like an accordion, which you can spill your dinner on like an old tablecloth. I am for an art that you can hammer with, stitch with, sew with, paste with, file with. I am for an art that tells you the time of day or where such and such a street is. I am for an art that helps old ladies cross the street. I am for the art of the washing machine. I am for the art of the government check. I am for the art of last war's raincoat. I am for the art that comes up in fogs from sewer holes in winter. I am for the art that splits when you step in a frozen puddle. I am for the worm's art inside the apple. I am for the art of sweat that develops between crossed legs. I am for the art of neck hair and caked teacups, for the art between the tines of restaurant forks, for the odour of boiling dishwater. I am for the art of sailing on Sunday, and the art of red and white gasoline pumps. I am for the art of bright blue factory columns and blinking biscuit signs. I am for the art of cheap plaster and enamel. I am for the art of worn marble and smashed slate. I am for the art of rolling cobblestones and sliding sand. I am for the art of slag and black coal. I am for the art of dead birds. I am for the art of scratchings in the asphalt, dubbing at the walls. I am for the art of bending and kicking metal and breaking glass and pulling at things to make them fall down. I am for the art of punching and skinned knees and sat-on bananas. I am for the art of kid smells. I am for the art of mama babble. I am for the art of bar babble, toothpicking, beer drinking, egg salting, insulting. I am for the art of falling off a bar stool. I am for the art of underwear and the art of taxicabs. I am for the art of ice cream cones dropped on concrete. I am for the majestic art of dog turds rising like cathedrals. I am for the blinking arts lighting up the night. I am for art falling, splashing, wiggling, jumping, going on and off. I am for the art of fat truck tyres and black eyes. I am for cool art, 7-Up art, Pepsi art, sunshine art, 39-cents art, 15-cents art, Vatronol art, Drobomb art, Vam art, Menthol art, L&M art, X-Lax art, Veneda art, Heaven Hill art, Pambril art, Sanamed art, 9.99 art, now art, new art, how art, fire sale art, last chance art, only art, diamond art, tomorrow art, Frank's art, duck's art, meteorama art. I am for the art of bread wet by rain. I am for the rat's dance between the floors. I am for the art of flies walking on a slick pear in the electric light. I am for the art of soggy onions and firm green shoots. I am for the art of clicking among the nuts when the roaches come and go. I am for the brown, sad art of rotting apples. I am for the art of meows and clatter of cats and for the art of their dumb electric eyes. I am for the white art of refrigerators and their muscular openings and closings. I am for the art of rust and mould. I am for the art of hearts, funeral hearts or sweethearts full of nougat. I am for the art of worn meat hooks and singing barrels of red, white, blue and yellow meat. I am for the art of things lost or thrown away, coming home from school. I am for the art of cock and bull trees and flying cows and the noise of rectangles and squares. I am for the art of crayons and weak grey pencil lead and grainy wash and sticky oil paint, and the art of windshield wipers and the art of the finger on a cold window, on dusty steel or in the bubbles on the sides of a bathtub. I am for the art of teddy bears and guns and decapitated rabbits, exploded umbrellas, raped beds, chairs with their brown bones broken, burning trees, firecracker ends, chicken bones, pigeon bones, and boxes with men sleeping in them. I am for the art of slightly rotten funeral flowers, hung bloody rabbits and wrinkly yellow chickens, bass drums and tambourines and plastic phonographs. I am for the art of abandoned boxes tied like pharaohs. I am for an art of water tanks and speeding clouds and flapping shades. I am for US government inspected art, grade A art, regular price art, yellow ripe art, extra fancy art, ready to eat art, best for less art, ready to cook art, fully cleaned art, spend less art, eat better art, ham art, pork art, chicken art, tomato art, banana art, apple art, turkey art, cake art, cookie art. I am for the art that is combed down, that is hung from each ear, that is laid on the lips and under the eyes, that is shaved from the legs, that is brushed on the teeth, that is fixed on the thighs, that is slipped on the foot, square, which becomes wobbly. Oh, that's been one of my favourite artist manifestos for a very, very long time, and many of you who know anything about my spiritual beliefs or my worldview will probably be smiling thinking that it has quite a pantheistic flavour to it. It's very all-encompassing. It talks about, well, it splits everything down into facets of the all and asks us to pull them apart like cotton wool and see how they might in themselves be their own universes, their own architectures and their own very worthy subjects for artistic exploration. So it does have a very pantheistic feel to it, which is one of the reasons I love it so much. Another reason that I love that particular manifesto so much is because I'm a writer, and clearly Claes Oldenburg was a writer as well as being a sculptor, because that in itself was pure poetry. But as a writer, I like to run with a theme and develop a sentence structure and keep going with that same sentence structure, or keep going with that theme which I come back to over and over again. So it's kind of like a time on the clock face. I'll keep coming back to it as the rhythm of the poem or the rhythm of the prose piece unfolds. So it was nice to see an artist manifesto that was written with that same pattern, that same flow that I so often favour and that I think is so much like an anthem and becomes increasingly more relevant for us in these times, artistically speaking at least. But the reason that I really wanted to read it to you guys is that I've realised recently that I really enjoy helping people to become inspired, or helping people to find that little hook on which they can hang the seed of desire to do something, to externalise what's down there. And that's one way that I think it can be done, is by finding something like that that's highly motivational but also speaks to the way that you create and the way that you see your own creative territory, because we all have one, and it's kind of like you have to formulate your own map. You have to work out where all of the different sweet spots are, if you like, when you are looking to get into a creative endeavour. You have to go into your terrain and you have to work out what the blocks are and what the inspiring things are, what the triggers are, what are your main themes, what do you always like to work with, and what do you want to branch out with, what do you want to go beyond, what haven't you explored yet that you might need to explore in your artistic endeavour. And I think that manifesto was so inspiring for me when I first read it, that I thought maybe I would give it to you guys and see if it's anything that you can do anything with. There was just a few things I wanted to say on the subject of art for expression or for therapy. I'm a really big believer in therapeutic journaling, and I've done it as soon as I was able to. I was doing it, and I've been doing it ever since. And I have different journals for different things and stuff, but I would always recommend writing, and if writing is really not a possibility, I mean, your writing does not need to be creative in therapeutic journaling, although you will find that it will become so. It will get that way, but that's not really the intention of it. The intention of it is to be present, is to breathe into what you're going through and permit yourself to commit it to the external world, and then to actually look at it. And that's almost like, in a sense, it's kind of like a wonderful, glorious cold slap in the face that you offer to yourself. It's incredibly nurturing, and it makes one feel like they have a base, like they have some way of not only looking back at the work that's come out of them and looking at where they've been on that journey and confirming that, yes, I did commit to that journey, and that's where I was then, and this is where I am now, and that's beautiful, and let me honour myself for that. But it's also a way of holding something tangible in your hands that is of you, that was from you. And it's also, of course, a way to peel back the layers. That's a big reason why a lot of people use therapeutic journaling, is to peel back those layers, particularly with things like automatic writing, which I highly, highly recommend if you are going through a shift, if you're going through a blockage, if you're going through any kind of emotional transition where you're trying to find that groove in the wood. You know that something needs to happen, that wood needs to be sliced, but it's so hard to find that groove. I would recommend, if you want to jump in the deep end, just go for automatic writing, which is, as many of you will already know, where you commit pen to paper for a set time without permitting yourself to stop. So you might start with, I mean, you could choose a starting point, you can select a starting point if you wish, or you can just start with whatever the hell the first thing is that comes into your head, but you must commit until the alarm goes off. You are not allowed to stop. And this brings out some very illuminating content, which can be poured over later and examined later and kind of be peeled, very onion-like, which was an ironic analogy to use, actually, because you will often cry when you read back through it. But yeah, a lot of stuff comes out that way. And I think it's important at the beginning not to make the commitment too large, but just to go for like 15 minutes if you're unsure, or if it's not the kind of thing you normally do. And a lot of the time when I'm talking about writing, I will talk about the pen and the paper, because that's how I do things. When I'm writing anything to do with information, or I'm putting forth any kind of knowledge that I have that I want to put forth in a structured way, then I'll always do it straight onto the laptop. But if it's anything to do with journaling or anything to do with my own psyche, it's always got to be pen to paper for me. But for a lot of people it doesn't work that way, so it's not really hugely important. It's just whatever medium you prefer. And I know that there are a lot of people who correspond with me or watch my channel, or people whose channels I watch, who are also painters or also prefer mediums like collage or make music. And I'm talking just as equally to you too. When I read the manifesto, I'm not thinking just of visual art in the sense of like art on a canvas or an installation piece. I'm thinking of art overall. I'm thinking of really the externalisation of the internal, or the externalisation of certain thoughts or ideologies into something tangible that other people can witness and appreciate and judge and absorb. So that's what I'm really talking about. Even if the only person doing that is just you, it's got to be something that's tangible, that's been brought into being by you through harnessing this little part of your creativity, this little part of your desire, to make a bridge. Because I really believe that art, like ritual, is a bridge. It's a bridge between what's in here and what's out here. That's really all it is. That's really all it needs to be, if that's all you want to use it for. You don't need to want an audience, you don't need to expect an audience, you don't need to feel less if you don't have an audience. If you start to get an audience and you don't like it, you can just tell them to rack off. Art is obviously so much more all-encompassing than that, and it's part of the human condition. So I'm really speaking to all of you who have ever known in your soul that part of your healing process was massively enriched by externalizing what's within in one way or another, by actually putting part of yourself into an artistic project. And to those people who feel blocked in that way too, I was thinking about that recently. I wanted to say a few things actually. It's really hard sometimes when you start getting into things like therapeutic journaling or artistic journaling for therapy, that kind of thing. It's quite difficult to begin with yourself a lot of the time when you've never done anything like that before. So you're sat there with this pen and paper and you're thinking, okay, well the subject is me, so how do I get in? How do I find that groove in the wood? It's not necessary to start with you. In fact, it's normally better if you don't. It's normally better if you loosen up and you start somewhere else. I'd recommend, first of all, getting out of your environment, because your environment is going to be kind of somewhat of an energetic reflection of you in one way or another, and there are going to be lots of things around that have different associations, and it's kind of distracting. But if you don't want to write about yourself straight away, I would recommend going to a public place and just sitting down with a coffee. And if you find it difficult to go within and actually start externalizing anything, the great thing about going out and getting a coffee is that you can just listen to people's conversations and just transcribe them. Just try and listen into as much as you can and transcribe it. And that gets you really loose with the pen. It gets you comfortable with the pen, because you have to write quickly because you're thinking, and you don't want what you're thinking about and clocking onto to escape you. So you have to go quick. And that's what you're going to have to do in therapeutic journaling when you start writing about your psyche, when you start ripping back blanket after blanket after blanket to get to the foundation. You're going to have to work quickly, write quickly, collage quickly, kind of paint frantically, rapidly, because that's kind of how it is. You're trying to capture something like a butterfly in a net, and sometimes that can get very erratic. So it's cool to transcribe things if you want to do that. That's a good way. Or just people watching and making notes on what people are doing is a great way too. So that you can get comfortable with the pen, you can get comfortable with what you're doing, you can start thinking of yourself as a journaler, if you like, before you really start to commit to that work of going deeper. And often when you commit to writing about something that's not necessarily focused on the psyche or focused on the issue or focused on the obstacle that you're experiencing emotionally, you'll find that as you become more free with this mode of expression, those things will creep in, they will creep in and they will start to become the central focus. You'll start writing about what you feel about a certain thing that you are merely observing from a distance and transcribing or describing or whatever. Your feelings will come into it, your soul will come into it, and that's where the food really is, I think, in a lot of ways. Another thing that I would advise for those who are not familiar with therapeutic journaling or with doing anything creative where the starting point is the soul, where you're really trying to heal something, shift something, comprehend something, really get down to the bones of what something is and how it can be changed or how it can be interpreted in a healthy way, I would recommend taking a look at the green places, watching the unfolding of the seasons. If you want to read some really good nature writers, because I really feel like nature writing invites for me the mind-body connection. And when I'm looking deeply into the psyche, and when I'm really focusing on things that are fractured or things that have kind of become shards, things that need to be put back together, things that aren't quite clear, things that I don't feel close enough to actually comprehend, things which are difficult and dark and dangerous for me emotionally, I feel like just watching the unfolding cycles of nature, or going out in the backyard and listening to the bird call, or just witnessing the smell of cut grass, or writing about what the rain sounds like on a roof, these things actually invite my mind-body connection. They bring me in to the body, the physical body, and they make me feel safe. There's this sense there of stability. It's a very kind of it's a base chakra feeling, if anyone, plenty of you will work with the chakras. That's what I'm talking about. It's that foundation. You get back into the five senses and you kind of eliminate that fear. It places you in a safe starting point from which to explore. And sometimes you need that. So if you want to read some good nature writers, there are so many. There's one guy whose name is going to escape me now, Barry Lopez. Oh my god, he's actually an explorer, but he wrote some incredible things about the Arctic and stuff. But three that I would really recommend are Walt Whitman, fantastic. Ted Hughes wrote a lot of his poetry about animals, plants, that kind of thing. He has an incredible book, I think it's called The Crow, which is just absolutely chock full of poems about animals, the way they move, the way they sound, the way they congregate, everything, the way their behaviour changes over the seasons, and it's incredibly rich, very, very delicious language, of course, because it's Ted Hughes. And D.H. Lawrence as well. Some people don't favour him, some people do. D.H. Lawrence has an incredibly pantheistic overtone, so that might be good for anyone who's looking to explore how they may write about nature in a poetic way, at least. But even just observations are great. It doesn't have to be a masterpiece, it just has to be your own honest snapshot of your communication with that, your communion with that thing that you're writing about, that bird, or that plant, or that street just unfolding during the day. Another thing that's really good to do, if you're stuck for writing material and you feel like you can't get that groove in the wood, you want to start writing about yourself, but you're not really sure where to start or what it is that you want to say first. I know a lot of people have that blank page fear. My mother has it. I bought her a journal for her birthday and massively encouraged her, but she's still not yet found the way to begin. There's some sense of trepidation, there's a sense of insecurity, there's a sense of vulnerability, there's a sense of, is this actually just ridiculous? Am I just insane? Is it stupid? Is it silly to journal about me and my issues? So there's all those things going on, so there's that blank page fear. What I would suggest is doing something like, if you just go onto weheartit.com or visualize.com, they're just directories chock full of pictures, and you can use the search function to type in the kind of pictures you want to look at. Like, you could type in spirituality, or you could type in sunsets, or you could just type in the word emotion and see what comes up, and just use those pictures as triggers for things that you can pull out and begin with. Or you can use things like this book, the photo book. This is just an example. Every single page has a photograph on it. There's some description of, you know, who the photographer was and what was going on. But basically you've got scenes and things happening in every picture, starting points for you. And they will trigger you, they will send you off. They'll either make you think about a memory that's associated with that thing, or you can just begin to write descriptively and feel comfortable with it, feel comfortable that that's what's going on. You know, if it's difficult for you to bring out your feeling in song, or to actually bring your feeling to the paint or to the collage. I'm a collage artist, and I know there's a very big difference between making a piece of collage which is just purely supposed to be about aesthetics, and making collage which is deep, which is personal, which is about my connection with spirit or my connection with self. There's a difference there, and the trepidation is more when it's a very personal thing. So just starting with something like this, just trying to find little triggers that come to you very easily. You don't need to go out and look at them, just flip through, start at a page and start working, start writing, start brainstorming, start spider diagramming. Another thing I would suggest, I know a lot of people on here use tarot and have followed my trainee tarot course and stuff. Can I just say that if you have got a bit of writer's block or a bit of artistic block, or you feel like you want to get down to the bones, writing down the bones is what Natalie Goldberg called it. You want to do that, but you feel like that there's no way that you can actually get through the door, or you're not sure what to begin with, or whatever. I would also recommend, obviously, your tarot cards, your oracle cards, whatever you've got. They just give you little trigger points of things that you can go into. You can find a little avenue, like wisdom, for example, patience. These are great. They're just triggers. They make you consider a certain piece of stone that you can begin at, then lay the foundations, and then start doing the work. So that's something that's quite interesting. I would love us to talk more about our creative experiences and our difficulties with using creativity to externalise what's internal, and our difficulties with kind of overcoming our insecurities on that point, because I really feel like my whole life I've always felt like if somebody has ever asked me for advice on a block that they're dealing with, a situation that they're trying to get to the other side of, I've always asked them, what are you doing creatively? And since I've been reading tarot professionally and I've become a qualified spiritual counsellor, I've noticed that there are certain clients to whom this question is almost begging to be asked, and it's almost not even coming from my consciousness. I mean, it is, because everything is coming from my consciousness, like quantum theory, please. But it's almost like it's not coming from me consciously. It's something about the combination of cards, something about the energy, something about either the lack of fire in the spread or the overwhelming rage of the fire in the spread that kind of makes me say, what are you doing creatively? Are you getting anything out? Are you actually externalizing it? Can you look at something tangible and say, yes, that was a snapshot of me at that time when I felt that way? And if not, why not? What's the block? What's stopping you? What's the barrier? What's the web? Let's try and find a way through that. Let's get shamanic about it. Let's imagine it as though it is some kind of web or some kind of plastic or some kind of, what does it look like for you in your psyche, and how can we get to the other side? So it's kind of like it comes up more and more, and I would like to share some things on this channel with you that inspire me. You know, like the Claes Oldenburg manifesto. I would like to read some poetry for you guys. I think poetry is a form of meditation, and I think reading poetry, really reading poetry, is a form of meditation, and I think meditation is medicine for the mind. So really it's just another way of doing that. Of course, it's not focus on the breath, but it's focus on something basically to the detriment of all else. And that something can be poignant, it can be meaningful, it can open up a box, it can take you out of your skin, and it can very much put you in your skin. It can make you the commander of your emotions, but it can also really surprise you. So there's something very intense about committing to reading a poem a day, I guess you could say. There's something intense about that. You find a lot of gold in there, a lot of gold. So I would like to talk more about things like that have inspired me, and I would also like to share some more of my writing potentially, because if I'm going to talk about the value of therapeutic journaling, then I'm going to have to at some point acknowledge the fact that it would be very rude to go on about that and explain the techniques that I've learned if I don't also put forth some of my own. So I will do that at some point, I think, which will be really exciting. Before I go today, I really wanted to read you guys something from one of Natalie Goldberg's books, Writing Down the Bones. She also has another really good one called, I know that the tagline is The Writer's Life, but I think it's something called, like, I can't remember. I'll link it in the down bar. Well, I'll just link to her official website in the down bar, because she writes about writing. And she was, I believe, a student of Allen Ginsberg, so she's got to know something about it, right? I think. So I would just like to leave you guys with this, and I know I said that this isn't exclusively for writers, but I am a huge proponent of therapeutic journaling. If you want to ask me any questions about it, or seek any advice from me, please feel absolutely free, unabashedly free to do that. It's definitely saved my life, and at some point I am planning on dragging all of my journals out from under the bed and showing them all to you. Obviously, like, not page by page, because you'd die of boredom, but I would like to show you what a great big stack of well-loved paper, well-used paper, psyche-defining paper actually looks like. And I'm sure a lot of you have a big bunch of that in your own houses, and that it has been a lifesaver for you. But for those who are unsure or have trepidation or not really sure where to start, I would love to at least be a tiny little part of that spark that gets you moving to do it, or to do something like it, because it really is so life-affirming. It breathes life into your struggle, your journey, your pathway. Totally, it does. It expands it. So I want to leave you with this very quick paragraph from Writing Down the Bones, and it says, as writers, we are always seeking support. First, we should notice that we are already supported every moment. There is the earth below our feet, and there is the air filling our lungs and emptying them. We should begin from this when we need support. There is the sunlight coming through the window and the silence of the morning. Begin from these. Then turn to a friend and feel how good it is when she says, I love your work. Believe her as you believe the floor will hold you up and the chair will let you sit. And remember, that friend does not have to be someone else. That friend can be you. I've talked a few times about being your own friend, and it's intrinsic. It's intrinsic to what I believe. It's absolutely a huge block for so many people in my life who are in pain, is that they don't have any inner dialogue. They don't check in, because they don't see themselves as worthy of that, as capable of that kind of dialogue. They don't know how to listen to themselves, to their bodies, to their needs. They don't know how to reassure themselves. And of course you can seek comfort in other people and praise in other people and advice from other people, but it would be a lot easier for a lot of people if they could also recognise that they can have that when they're on their own in a room, and they really can. So yeah, I just wanted to leave you guys with that, and I wanted to say, be inspired and believe that, you know, that seed of today is the flower of tomorrow in some sense. And if you have trepidation, you need to dump it off somewhere. You need to find that groove in the wood, and there are so many other ways that you can do it, and I'll probably talk about shitloads of other ways at some point. But expect some more videos on therapeutic journaling, because it is something I've been meaning to delve into for a while. And much love for the moment, guys. Love you.